Welcome to the Sunshine Parenting Podcast. My name is Audrey Monkey, and I am your host. For more than 3 decades, I've been a summer camp director, and I've had the privilege of working with thousands of children, teenagers, young adult counselors, and parents. I really enjoy sharing stories, tips, and ideas to help others who care about young people raise a generation of kind, self-reliant, optimistic kids who become thriving adults. If you're interested in summer camp, parenting, or happiness, you've come to the right place. In episode 49, I'm talking with Michelle Kinder, who is the executive director of the Momentous Institute in Dallas, Texas. The Momentous Institute focuses on building and repairing social and emotional health of children. Their goal is to develop kids who become self-regulated, good communicators, problem solvers, empathetic, grateful, gritty, and optimistic. I loved that list of qualities and am thrilled to be attending the Momentous Institute's annual conference, which is going to be at the end of September, and it's called Changing the Odds. I'll post links to the Momentous Institute, information about Michelle, and the Changing the Odds conference in the show notes for this episode of the podcast. I hope you enjoy hearing from Michelle. Well, hi, Michelle. Thank you so much for being on the podcast today.
I'm so glad to be.
So can you just start by introducing yourself and telling listeners where you're from and what you do?
You bet. Michelle Kinder, and I serve as the executive director of Momentous Institute, which is a nonprofit in Dallas, Texas, devoted to children and social emotional health.
And I actually learned about the Momentous Institute and your upcoming conference from a couple of your, I think, returning speakers, Christine Carter and Tina Payne Bryson.
Your favorite.
Yes, and I've become friends with both of them just in this whole area of both of them have worked with camps. And Christine has actually spoken at my camp and done our staff training for several years, like 8 years.
Oh, I love it.
And Tina Payne Bryson is also very active in the camp community, and she does a lot of camp conferences. So she's been really active in this space too. So that's how I met both of them. And then I saw Tina posted about coming to speak at Momentous Institute at your Changing the Odds conference. So I signed up. So I'm coming to my first one.
I know. When I got your email saying that you're coming, I did a little happy dance.
Okay, good. So why don't we just start? Can you just talk a little bit about the conference? Because I guess it's still space available and it's open to parents and pretty much anyone who works with youth, right?
Absolutely. It's very much designed to be kind of 30 or 50,000 foot level kind of information. So if you work with children or care about children, the content is relevant. And our theme this year is belonging. And it's September 27th and 28th here in Dallas. And we really set it up so that it's 2 full days of keynotes. There's no breakout sessions. We want people to be able to come and have an experience where they would hear from 8 or 9 people that they would potentially have to go to 8 or 9 conferences to have access to.
Oh, that is just amazing. And I looked at your lineup. Why don't you tell everybody about the people that you have coming this year? Because I'm honestly so excited about every single one of your speakers.
Me too. This is our 6th, 7th year, and this is one of my favorite lineups that we've had up to this point. Like I'm more excited about the content and the speakers than I am nervous, which is one of my litmus tests. So like, do we have the right content? So I share that. I'll tell you who's coming. Tim Shriver is coming, Father Greg Boyle, Tina Payne Bryson, back by popular demand, Rosalind Wiseman, Mark Nepo, Jen Hatmaker, Brenda Jones Harden, Sarah Heminger, and David Williams. And they each have a different lens on this issue of that we're better together. But that's really the anchor is how do we sort of have this collective experience, 1,500, 1,600 people coming together to learn the latest research, the latest thinking, that will both fill us with hope and optimism and also shake us up about what we think we know.
Oh, well, this is just so exciting. So your focus at Momentous Institute is on social and emotional health. Is that correct? Is that a good description?
That is
what you're focusing on. And so talk about a little bit about the work you do, the research, the book reviews, all the different things that you're doing to just kind of get more education out there about how we can help our children with their social and emotional well-being.
Absolutely. Yeah, we're a 98-year-old organization, and we really landed in that space of social emotional health because it is one of the most underattended to levers, beautifully attended to in the camp world, but underattended to in lots of other places. So we felt like if you're going to be paying attention to children's well-being, you have to look for the levers that are underattended to. And social emotional health, which we define as the capacity to understand and manage emotions, reactions, and relationships. That was very organic for us because for probably 6 of our 9 decades, we were focused exclusively on mental health. And out of that work, which that work still continues and is our biggest footprint, but then out of that work came our focus on education. So we now have the mental health work that works with over 5,000 people a year. Our education work is a lab school for 248 children and their families, most of whom are impacted by poverty, where social emotional health is as prioritized as academics. We have them through 5th grade, and then we launch them into the world, and they're in 60 different middle and high schools, and our researcher tracks their progress. And we're seeing 97% graduate high school on time and 84% go on to higher education. It's really exciting proof points about what happens when you create an environment in the early years where children deeply get to know themselves and their impact on their community.
Oh, that gave me the chills when you were just talking about that, just how this is what I really feel like, like you mentioned at camps, our main focus is on the connection and the relationships and the friendships and sort of helping them with all of that. But it seems like a lot of schools, a lot of teachers don't have that knowledge about social emotional well-being and just little things they can do to just help kids feel that sense of belonging. I noticed that you do a lot of trainings for teachers. Are those web-based so people anywhere can participate?
Yeah, great question, because that's really the third leg of our stool, so to speak. We take everything we're learning in that work with families and mental health and in our lab school, and then we share out through research, training, products, any way that we can freely share. And so we're getting more and more web-based just because of the demand, but our present day, most everything is done in person. In October, we're going to be launching 10 social emotional health training videos that people can access on our website, which I think will be really relevant for your audience. It'll be geared toward educators, and that includes the camp world, after school people, anyone who's interacting with children in that professional space. But I watched them also with the lens of a parent and just, garnered enormous applicable digestible strategies.
So parents are allowed to register for I noticed, the conference, the Changing the Odds conference is open to parents.
Yes.
And your different trainings and all your blog posts and even your store. To me, those are things that parents, even if they're not working in a professional capacity with kids, would benefit from.
No question. The materials that we put out really are meant to shift every single adult on the planet into a headspace where they can really see and feel and understand children and give them the experience that they are seen and felt and understood and capable and cherished. And all of that is sort of a 2-part process. It's what is your mindset? Like, how are you seeing the child, and how might you be triggered by that child, and what of your stuff might be getting in the way? And then if you are in a perfectly positive mindset, then the other side of the equation is, do you know what to do so that your intent gets expressed in impact? So we come at it both ways. Like, how do we support the shifts in mindset? And then how do we fill your pockets with strategies once you're in that headspace that allows for the deepest and most meaningful connection?
Oh, that is just amazing and so important, because it's funny. I always talk about how some of the training, simple things we teach camp counselors who are, 19, 20, 21 years old, they learn these very simple, just kind of positive communication strategies with kids that they come back later and tell us help them a lot with their parenting. And there are these things that most parents don't really have the opportunity to learn unless they're in education or early childhood education, or they're in some kind of psychology field. So it's really great that you're providing this information that is so vital to a generation that I think is, to me, this is a very challenging time to be a parent with some of the things going on. And so I just love that you're providing this. Just it's for free. When you go to the blog on your website, you have every single topic. There's, kindness and trauma and just general parenting things, so many different things that parents can just go there and read about anything that they're interested in and learn so much.
Yes, and we would love to hear what's not on there that there's a need for. Our team is amazing at generating really solid content that's based in research. And so if there's a topic that's missing that your listeners want to hear from us on, we would want to know that.
Okay, well, I will definitely keep that in mind and see what maybe they'll put comments on the show notes so we can see that. So I guess one of the things that I just want to ask you about is, what are you seeing as kind of the biggest challenges right now for our children's social and emotional health? Where is your research leading you? What are the things that are kind of at the top of your list of where you want to get information out to parents right now and to educators?
Yes. I think I would zero in on maybe three things. The first one is, for lots of different reasons, some not obvious, the absence of safe relationships. And the experience for children of that mutual regulation, which then allows them to develop the capacity to self-regulate. And it's not always where you would think. I think a lot of families might hear that and go, well, that might be a problem in high poverty, high stress, high whatever. But actually, children who are being raised in affluent homes are feeling a little rudderless too, because of really busy parents, or maybe not as much intergenerational contact. So I think the first one would be, how do we get as many safe relationships in the lives of our children as possible, is sort of the bedrock. The second thing that we know that pulls children into tolerable stress and out of toxic stress is that capacity to regulate their own nervous system. So teaching kids just a little bit about their brain, and we teach kids as young as 3 that their amygdala is in charge of their emotions, that their prefrontal cortex helps them make good decisions, and that their hippocampus helps them remember. And so if they're having a really strong feeling, rather than the narrative being that they're bad or defiant or angry or anything that lives in them, the narrative becomes something we hold together, which is, your amygdala is in charge right now. And I remember last week when the amygdala was in charge, we walked together and that helped your prefrontal cortex get back in charge, or whatever it is. So teaching kids about their brain, and then teaching them strategies to get the amygdala back in check, be it movement, be it breathing, be it focusing their attention, be it being in the space with an adult who is regulated, because our nervous systems are contagious. We always tell parents and caregivers and teachers, if you do not know what to do, if you're in a situation with a kid, and we all are at some point where it's like, holy cow, there's a possession taking place right now because I do not know how to help. The start with just regulating your own nervous system. Just get your own self in check, and that will create a different, almost energetic field for the child to then do the same for themselves. So that's two. And then the third one I would say is we've got to rebalance the scales on how we're motivating children to bring their best selves to the table. Right now, there's such a hyper focus on individual achievement, and that's an empty place for most of the population. There's a very small percentage of people who are filled because they achieve individually. They might be proud, but they're not filled up by that. So we spend a lot of time talking to children about contribution being the inspiration, and that will fuel achievement. But none of us are in it for ourselves. We're in it to be part of a community. So I think those would be the three. Safe relationships, helping kids learn how to self-regulate, and then inspiring for contribution over personal achievement.
Right. Which a lot of that can come from the adults in their lives modeling all of those things. Because I always seem to keep coming back to, like, if you're trying to teach a child something like about contribution, or how you'll feel so much happier when you're being kind to others or doing things for other people, they really only learn that by seeing you do that and then, following along. So it's a lot. It's kind of just how we live is how we help our children best, like sort of how we live with them and do things with them in community.
True. It's so true. And the incongruence of talking about this stuff, social emotional health, and not living it is actually worse for kids than if you didn't talk about it at all, because they struggle to make sense of the incongruence. So if you can only do one thing, to your point, model it. Mm-hmm. If you can do both, model it and then teach it. If you can't do either, then that's better than doing the teaching and living really differently, because it's confusing to their nervous systems and it's confusing to their brains.
Yeah. I'm finding just one of the things, so a lot of times the kids just love being at camp, and the older kids are really good about articulating why it is they feel so, feel better kind of and happier at camp. And a lot of it, they just feel under so much pressure from just everything, where, as they get older, they're feeling like so much academic pressure, and like they're supposed to be, taking really hard classes in every subject and spending so much time on that. And then they're also supposed to be doing a sport and doing all these other things. And so some of them will say, I interviewed some of the teenagers at my camp, and they just said, oh, it's so nice just to be in a place where I can just be and just be with my friends. I don't have my coach, pushing me to do stuff. I don't have my parents telling me I have to keep doing stuff. And I just think part of it is that we all need to just take a step back and just say, what are we doing? Because obviously, like, I'm seeing at camp just more kids coming to us with kind of more issues, younger than we've ever seen before. A lot of it is that self-regulation piece. They don't know what to do with hard emotions, or when they get tired, which happens, when you're living with a bunch of people and at camp, about a week in, you're feeling kind of tired. And we just see, this summer alone, we've had 4 or 5, 8 or 9-year-olds who kind of get into what we call the red zone now because of Gina. And we're, and our counselors have been trained about, just you need to, before you can talk to a child, you need to help them just restore their equilibrium, just get back into that green zone. But there have been a few kids who just get so spiraled. And then their parents have reported that that's been happening at home too, that and I think that is that emotional self-regulation that for some reason they're not getting when they're maybe with you. They need to go to your school, I guess, when they're little to learn that.
Yes, it's true. Like the way you talk about the stress and the pressures, and unfortunately in our education system and in our parenting, we're all a little overly captured by fear. And so we're making fear-based decisions, which tend to constrict and narrow and shut connection down. So anytime we feel that kind of ooh, or we see that our children are feeling it, it's an invitation to look at the fear versus love dichotomy and choose love, because we will interact with our child so differently if we're thinking, oh my God, you're not going to make it into college and you're probably going to go to prison because you didn't pick up your socks, versus, oh, you're with what you just did, you're showing me that there's a coping skill gap, and that's what you're here for these 18 years. And I get an opportunity to lovingly show you what that looks like. And then we just show up so differently. And it really is not just in words and deeds, but energetically. We show up differently when we are guided by love instead of fear.
And I love that model. I think Tina, in a talk that she gave to the camp directors last year, she said, make a list of the behaviors you don't want, and then just turn it into your list of skills your child still needs to learn, and just shifting your mindset that it's just something that some kids naturally have a better ability at some things. Like we talk about that with friendship skills too. I've been teaching the kids at camp, just, you know what? We all have different things that are our strengths when we're with friends. And then we have these other things that are areas that we can work on while we're at camp. And, so it might be that if you're already really good at introducing yourself, but you need to work a little bit more on asking more questions to get to know other kids. And so it's nothing to, as a parent or as anyone else, to make them feel bad about, like it's something wrong with them. It's just a skill that they still need to learn. Yeah. And that's how but I think with our own kids, and I don't know if you feel this way too, but with other people's children, I feel like it's a lot easier to say, I can see that you're still working on, not interrupting other people. But with your own kids sitting at the dinner table,
oh my gosh, I was just thinking that same thing for myself. Same example.
Yes. I think we just need to, like you said, just lead with love with our own kids and just view them. They are these amazing human beings who have their strengths. They have their areas that they need to work on. And we're just kind of on this journey with them and helping them along. And when we get all upset about something that is for them just a skill they don't have yet, that just doesn't get either of us anywhere.
I love that you say that, because to me, the hook for myself as a mom compared to myself as someone who loves and cares for kids in lots of other areas of my life, when I see something that's not ideal in my own child, I go so quickly to, have I messed this up? And then that drives a panicky, fear-based, usually hideous parental reaction.
Right.
Like, I'm just waiting, not really, but kind of, for Child Protective Services to come knocking. It's embarrassing but if I can pull up and catch myself, it's always me thinking, oh my God, not only are you not ready for the world, but you're not ready for the world because I messed up. And that is a shame spiral that will, trick us every time into then not showing up in a helpful way for our kids the next 10 minutes and then the next 10 minutes. Right.
Well, I think and as parents, we all need to know that we are going to say the wrong thing and make mistakes just like our kids will in their relationships. So we can also model for them in those situations.
Right.
Like, wow, you know what? I just went into my red zone and said something. I'm really sorry about that. So how can we repair this and move on?
Yes.
And I think parents, and I talk about this a lot with other parents, we need to also with each other be able to be really open and say, wow, you know what, this is going on. And I tried this and wow, I didn't respond correctly. And what are your ideas? And going to these conferences and reading these resources and all these things, because none of us is a perfect parent. So that's not the goal, but our goal we all share is to raise kids who come out the other side as good human beings who know how to have positive relationships and good mental health and all of that stuff. So I just love this. I'm so excited to meet you and to be able to talk. And I'm definitely going to do a follow-up podcast after the conference. And if any of my listeners come, I'm hoping we can get together while we're there and chat and connect in person too. Any final thoughts that you just want to share with my listeners before we close this off? Because we've been talking, I think, for about 20 minutes.
No, I so appreciate this opportunity, and I'm looking forward to meeting you at the conference. And I hope if anyone does come, that they'll come introduce themselves and let us know how they heard about it. And just look forward to hopefully many more chapters pulling on the same rope with you and with all of the parents and teachers and therapists and camp counselors out there, collectively creating space for kids to achieve their full potential.
Oh, so exciting. Okay, thank you so much for being on, Michelle. This has been amazing.
Thank you. It was my pleasure.
I'm thrilled to have connected with Michelle and had the chance to chat with her about the amazing work the Momentous Institute is doing. I'm really looking forward to attending the Changing the Odds conference, which is coming up in Dallas, Texas, September 27th and 28th. If you decide to attend the conference, which is open to parents, community members, educators, and mental health professionals, please let me know so that we can connect at the conference. If you're a regular listener to the Sunshine Parenting Podcast, I'd really appreciate it if you'd take a moment to go to iTunes and give the podcast a rating. I'm going to leave you with some words of Michelle's from a blog post at the Momentous Institute. Her post is called 3 Little Words. We have 3 little words that get tons of play at the Kinder household. We started saying it when my daughters were pre-verbal and they are now 13 and 8. 3 little words. No, not those 3 little words, although we do say I love you all the time. The 3 little words are, we're problem solvers. That's it. Anytime we have any sort of challenge, we say, we're problem solvers.
This podcast is a proud member of Parents on Demand, a network of high-quality shows for families just like yours. Download our free network app on Apple and Android and listen to your favorite episodes on the go.